Okay, we're going to talk to Nancy a little bit about unit planning. We've kind of talked about a CCGPS overview, how you were introduced to the standards, some of the big shifts. I want to get down to the unit level and talk about how you began to plan out instruction over a several month period or several week period. And then we'll have some segments about specific lessons and strategies that you use, look at your students doing some work and move on to assessment. But right now I want to talk about the sort of broad overview. So you learned about CCGPS, you had some training, you read, you studied, you got your brain around the big shifts, so you knew kind of what you needed to do. You needed to have slightly more challenging text, you needed to have more informational text, and you wanted to integrate those standards together. Now I know there are a lot of different resources around. There are different vendors out there. The state has unit frameworks available. You also have a very talented team here at Vaughn Elementary. How did you decide to cobble that together to start to create units of instruction?
We started actually with the template provided by the DOE website, because we felt like that offered us the scaffolding that we needed as teachers to be able to wrap our minds around this and how we would incorporate lots of different standards.
So what a sample might look like of how could this possibly...
It was a good place for us to start because the units there were a starting place. Rather than feeling like you were starting cold, you actually had something
a model to look at. And that's one of the best practices we use in the classroom. We try to provide a model, but we don't want the students to use our exact model. So you felt free to take samples from wherever you drew them, as long as they met that shift in rigor and expectations, and to create your own. So that's great. That's what we've recommended. Some of the DOE frameworks I think you guys have adhered to pretty closely, and others you really got creative with changing, which we like to see.
We took the first 9 weeks framework from the DOE website with the text of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And we took that and we changed the theme to There's No Place Like Home for the first 9 weeks. And we had some connecting texts along with that. We also, the second part with the nonfiction, we named that The Wonderful World of Weather, because we were bringing in our science standards.
The informational piece, and that's the way we work those themes, is that you found something in that literary text that also connected to your science and your social studies standards, and because you're in that elementary contained classroom, you were able to really integrate those.
In order to get the content standards in, the Georgia content standards that we have, you have got to integrate wherever possible, because there's just not enough time in the day to get everything in. So we took that and it was a wonderful unit. We actually had a great time with it. The kids enjoyed it. They really enjoy the nonfiction. Really enjoy that.
Well, now it's interesting because the Wizard of Oz was a very challenging text, and that was one of our DOE frameworks, and we had a lot of questions about the difficulty of that text. So you probably attacked that. How did you, were there bits of it that the kids could read to themselves? Did you read it aloud? Did you get different lexile versions of the story, or show snippets of the movie? What did you do?
There are several versions of it. We chose a classic version. And at first, some people on our team were a little hesitant, thinking that this was too hard.
Yeah, it's a difficult text.
But we stuck with it, and it turned out to be one of the best experiences that we've had. We used it for read aloud. We could also lift a portion of a text to address a certain standard that we might want to focus in on as far as adjectives go and things like that. So
that's fantastic. I love the idea that you were using authentic text in order to hit those grammar and language standards, as opposed to having, say, an opening sponge or something that's a random sentence on the board. We know that if we build that context around it and make it authentic, it has much more sticking power.
It really resonated with the children.
So you made Wizard of Oz work, and of course, and many schools chose to go with a different text. Maybe they didn't know that text, or they wanted to do a little less read aloud and a little more student reading. But you guys found a happy balance that worked for you, and the student interest was high.
Right. I think you just really have to look at what your goals are, because not every school is going to need to do things in the exact same way. So we took this to meet the needs of our students.
Excellent. Okay, so you began with the literary text, and but you were trying to hit that 50% informational. So how did you pull in informational text?
Well, we pulled in informational text through weather, and we had several different short texts that are out there for, rainbows and wind, and we talked about, absolutely, because they were fascinated with the tornado, which is called a cyclone in the book. And they were also fascinated by the differences between the movie and the book, as were many adults who have never read the book before.
Well, and that's an important standard, especially in this age of media. I think that's one reason that standard explicitly shows up as you go through the grades in Common Core, comparing different media genre representations of a single text or a single idea.
It offers
and
so
to think
many
about
ways
the author's
to do
purpose for why did these changes have to be made. So and that gives you a chance to look at tone and author's purpose and all of that.
They loved it.
Now, you went on to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is another text that's pretty difficult.
It is.
But you again scaffolded with some read-alouds and
we did.
Okay.
We called our unit Inventing Fun, and we did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Maggie Moon, a lot of the extended text and a lot of the thematically connected short texts that were.
Now, Maggie Moon is a great book that is about a little girl who invents things out of garbage and found objects and kind of gets in with the guys that don't want the girl to be in their club. The book has been difficult to find, unfortunately.
Yes.
But we're working on that. People have really enjoyed teaching it, and so we're trying to get some more copies out there in circulation.
It's well worth it if you can find that.
So,
well worth it.
And if not, find a substitution. But
absolutely.
That was a great book. People have enjoyed that. So you went on that theme of inventors and explorers, but that was a literary text. So how did you morph that into an informational?
Well, what we did in the second part, we called that Inventing Our World. And we looked at Benjamin Franklin. He is one of the inventors and American heroes that we have to study in first grade.
So you got your social studies standard,
we got our social studies
and your science with the inventions.
And our science, we had a Inventors Day where the children had to invent something that would solve a problem that they have. We had some incredible inventions that came in.
That's great.
Which also addressed our speaking and listening standards too. So it's all about the integration and looking at where you have an opportunity to bring things in.
Okay, now talk to me a little bit about the foundational side of this. You had said earlier that your philosophy is sort of in K2 we are learning to read, and in 3-5 we're reading to learn. The sample unit frameworks that we have in many of the CCGPS ELA units that are out there for elementary really focus on that reading time, the read aloud, the reading comprehension. But we can't forget that at this age they have to learn to read. So, and I know that the standards have that foundational piece. Talk to us about the standards that are in the foundational pieces for CCGPS and how you address those.
Well, you have print concepts which can be brought into many lessons.
Many lessons. Okay.
Absolutely. Also the phonological awareness and the phonics and word recognition, along with fluency lessons, can all be brought in. And in my classroom, I bring those in with what we call the Daily 5 and Cafe strategies.
So it's a little bit of a separate time of day from your ELA time, from your reading time. That foundational time is a discrete part of the day where you're scaffolding.
That time of the day is when we bring in guided reading, strategy groups, and so forth. So
it's gradual release of responsibility for the students.
Absolutely.
I'm interested in this Daily 5 and Cafe. Tell me, what is that? Is that an acronym, or what are the components of it?
CAFE is an acronym that comes from comprehension for the C, A is accuracy, F is fluency, and E is for expanding vocabulary.
Okay.
And under each one of those acronyms you have strategies that each child has a specific strategy that they're working on during this time.
Okay, so you do that daily, and you got the 5. So, all right, well, we're going to take a little peek inside Nancy's classroom in just a moment and see the kids at work with the Daily 5 in practice on an ordinary class day.